Welcome to the Andrew D'Angelo podcast.
Constant Constance. Each week, Andrew, renowned jazz saxophonist and brain cancer survivor, invites us to look at the many worlds of his guests, with conversations that cover all the arts, human resilience, a little bit of politics, and a lot of humour.
You can't fail to have a fantastic time.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. Today, we are here with the amazing guitarist, composer, and band leader, Mary Halvorson. Mary, welcome. Thank you for coming on. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. It's interesting. I posted about this episode on social media because I like to just see if anybody has a question or, comment. And for you, I said, Mary said she'd come on the show as long as we don't talk about anything, about her new record. And everybody was just like, oh my God, that's why I love Mary, man. She's so great. She's awesome. So here's a interview with Mary Halvorson that's not about Mary Halvorson's new record, but we will put a link below so that people, if they want to check it out. And one of the cool things about this show is I've been able to go back and revisit my friend's music. So that's been kind of fun. And I'm realizing, I don't know if it's a brain surgeries or what, Mary, but one of the things is my memory is sometimes a little skewed. How did we meet? Did we meet on stage? Did we meet?
I was just thinking about this the other day, and my memory is also not perfect, especially when it comes to things a long time ago. But tell me if this rings a bell.
Okay.
Did we play a gig together? Did you come up to Wesleyan when I was a student there? And I might have been like 18, 19. I have this memory that you came up. Do you know Tim Kuiper?
Yeah.
You were playing with Tim. I was playing with Tim a lot. We were in college at the same time. And I think you came up and played a gig with us at like some frat house or something.
Right.
When I was a teenager. And I think that's the first time I met you. But again, it could be off. But, this would have been like 99 or maybe even 2001. I don't know. But I've known you for a long time.
Right. Wow. Oh, my God. Okay. I had no idea it had been that many years. And yeah, I did a gig at Wesleyan with Tim Kuiper and who was it? Jamie Fennelly, right? I think.
That rings a bell as well. Maybe that's what it was.
Okay. So I've known you since you're a teenager? Oh my God. I'm old, man. Oh my God.
I just turned 40, so.
Wow. Congratulations. You look beautiful. Somebody, is that okay to say? Yeah, I'm a gay man. I can say you. Somebody in a review or something the other day called me a veteran saxophonist, Andrew D'Angelo. I said, just right old. I mean, no reason to like gloss over it. You know what I mean? It's like, and one of the other things that came to me after we spoke the other day or whenever it was, and also people were asking, what was it like when my band Human Feel, well, it's a collective, but the band Human Feel, you subbed on a gig at the Stone in Manhattan. And I was just curious, what was that like for you? I mean, walking into a very established band and probably a little bit of a boys club, I would imagine that we are, including myself. Just what was that like for you? Was it fun? Was it scary? I don't know.
It was a lot of fun. I mean, first of all, I love that band. So to have the opportunity to play that music was really exciting. I love the music. It was hard. I remember sitting there and learning. I think it was one of the pieces you wrote. Was just completely insane. So sitting there trying to learn it.
Sorry.
No, I mean, I was really up for the challenge, and I have very fond memories of that whole experience. Getting a chance. And it is a different thing. You're right. When you step into something where there's clearly so much history and everybody is so connected, I think that can be weird to step into, but it can also be amazing because there's such a strong established sound. So you feel like you get to be a part of something that's special, that isn't just a bunch of randomly thrown together musicians. So in that case, I felt more the latter, more just that it was like, wow, I'm stepping into this thing that's super strong.
Right.
And getting a chance to play with it. So I remember that very fondly.
Do you think it was a really fun show? do you know the behind the scenes that Kurt's manager was like basically trying to kill us all?
I don't think so, no. Because then I saw you guys play with Kurt at South Eldon, like maybe 6 months, a year later, I think, which was also amazing. It was a great gig.
Thank you. This is your interview, not mine. But yeah. So Kurt's manager found out via social media that you were doing the show, and he went ballistic. I mean, sending us texts and emails and how can you do this to Kurt? And we're like,
but Kurt was okay with it, right?
We talked to Kurt and he's like totally fine. He's like, yeah, I understand. I can't do a one-off in New York, at the Stone. And, whoever you choose, I think will be, great. But his manager was like, dude, calm down. I was somebody else said, do you know John Rogers, the photographer?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That you and I did some show at a smoothie shop in Soho.
Yes. It was called Elixir.
Oh my God. How do you guys remember this stuff? Like, I don't have no idea what either you or John Rogers are talking about. Was it a fun gig?
There was this juice bar. I tend to have a better memory for things that happen very early when I started doing gigs. It's almost like the first tour I did. It's like picture perfect. Everything's perfectly clear, every detail, every gig. And then everything since then has been like a big blur. So I can either remember like what I did last week, or I can remember what I did 20 years ago. So I remember the juice bar because it was a long time ago. But they used to have shows. It was James Engelfritz, that bass player, was curating it, and they used to have shows. So it would be, I remember playing duo there with Jessica Pavone, and if you were lucky, you'd get a free juice out of it. It was a tiny little place, like smaller than the room I'm in now.
I can't even speak to it because I don't remember, but that's delightful to remember non-memory, right? But I'm glad it was positive. And then I was also just kind of conversating and maybe mentioning on the phone that you were coming on, and somebody brought up that they had heard you talking about, because we're still basically in the whole pandemic thing here during this interview, that you had been bartending for your neighbors is that true?
Yeah. We all have to have a hobby, right? We can't leave the house.
Right.
And I really miss going out to cocktail bars. So I had no choice but to bring the bar home. So I learned how to make them. And I think I'm up to about 10 different kinds of bitters, and I have a million types of liqueurs and alcohols. And so just, I'm trying to learn the basics first. And then from there, I'm trying to get a little experimental, branch out a little bit, but that's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. Whoever it was I was talking to, and I don't know I can't remember who it is, said, that's so cool. She was bartending, during the pandemic, but she didn't say what she was serving. So I guess you have your list of, because our friend Leah Paul, the amazing composer and flautist.
Yeah, of course.
Well, she jumps in and says, oh my God, I have to read it to you directly. She goes, I am laughing to myself so hard because Mary and I used to joke about drinking toilet water and tonics.
Yep, that's true.
From gross dive bars we would hang out at. So maybe these are the drinks she's making for those people?
Actually, well, I do make a gin and tonic, but it's like an elderflower gin and elderflower tonic and a Monkey 47 gin. It's really good. So it's a step up. Tell Leah it's a step up from the toilet water. And after the pandemic, she can come over. I'll make her one.
Oh, that's nice. This may seem mundane, but it's not. How are you doing this? Do they text you, I want a G&T, or do you bring it over to their house, or how does this work?
Well, they live downstairs, so it's pretty easy. I mean, I make menus.
Wow,
I make
cool.
these little mock menus, so I have 3 different menus. And so I'll text them the menu, and I'll let them know I'm making cocktails at such and such a time, and if they want one, to let me know, and then I bring them down. It's a lot of fun, and they're amazing too. They've brought me all kinds of baked goods and meals, and
nice.
We have a little exchange going, which is really nice.
I think that one thing I'm learning from doing all these interviews during the pandemic is that a majority, maybe not everybody, of people feel like this maybe has brought us all together, this kind of thing, exchanging me with my neighbors. And although that's kind of one-sided because they're all 80 and 90, but that's okay. I help them. Okay, they give me some bread or something,
Right.
But it does seem like this, and also politics. Did you watch Biden just before we filmed this, by the way?
Today?
Yeah.
No, I did not. I didn't today. No.
But you've seen him after he became president.
Oh yeah.
And it's just like, okay, I don't care if you like his politics, anybody, but it's just nice to be able to go, I can actually listen to this guy and not, feel like vomiting.
It's amazing. I mean, you know what the best is for me is like, I get these New York Times alerts on my phone.
Right.
So the whole Trump, I don't know why I didn't just turn them off, but the whole Trump presidency, you'd wake up and it'd be like, Trump did this horrible thing.
Right.
Good morning, Trump did this horrible thing.
Right.
And now it's like I'm getting good news.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really amazing. I feel like my mood has just improved so much since then. I mean, not that everything's perfect, but I mean, it's a step in the right direction. It's pretty incredible. And he's actually a human being that cares about people and wants to do good things.
And I agree. And when I had the press secretary on, one thing he was talking about where Trump started this new feature where the president was texting people directly, basically. I mean, Twitter, but and he talked about the psychology and how that changed the political world. Excuse me. And I remember early on in the Trump presidency, I was like, oh, you can follow him on Twitter. Why not? And and I was getting his tweets. I was like, something doesn't feel right about this. I don't think the president of a major country should be able to tweet people directly, national security kind of thing. Anyway, I didn't like the guy. I just unfollowed him. But Aries, the press secretary, said, yeah, it's completely changed the political dynamic. And then he goes into that. I won't try to re-explain it because I don't know if I fully understood what he meant. But that was a big moment in politics. Like, hey, Mary, you wake up, it's President Trump or whoever. And, here's what I did, right? And you're like, oh, my God, spelling errors. And but I was fascinated by this aspect of such a high level official, being able to connect with his people, I guess, Mary, during the break, you and I were chatting and I was asking you, instead of talking about your new record, and then now knowing that I met you when you said you were about 18 or 19, something like this. How do you get from there, from either Wesleyan or at that point in your life to this record with Robert Wyatt and all these great musicians? What is that? How does this progress happen? I mean, anybody could say, well, I practiced a lot. That's not what that's not what I'm talking about. Like, what do you have a vision? Is there something that you always had in mind for your future self? Or
I mean, it's hard to say, but I think I've always been like a pretty focused one track kind of person. So I feel like probably since I met you 20 years ago, I've just wanted to do creative experimental music and work hard at it and, experiment and try out different things. But I've always been like, that's been like my main focus, if that makes sense. So like just trying to get better at the guitar and try different projects. I've been in New York the whole time. I haven't had a lot of like periods of my life where I went and did something different, So I feel like, in a sense, just chipping away. That's what I feel like I've been doing for 20 years.
So basically, you're just found yourself landing in different locations throughout your career. It wasn't as if you had a trajectory. I can't say the word all of a sudden. And right. I mean, I have musician friends, like somebody like Dave Douglas. Like Dave had a line and he was going down that line, and that's absolutely cool. There's nothing wrong with that. And somebody like me, I'm like over here, over there. I'm living in Europe. I'm living back in New York. I'm living in Boston. I'm sleeping on a couch for a while, and I'm one of those people. I'm just like, yeah, whatever happens, happens.
Right.
And you sound like you may be in between, where you had a vision, but it landed you in these spots and you just embraced them. And
yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of both. Like, I've always loved New York. I always knew I wanted to live here. So, I grew up in Boston. went to college in Connecticut, but I moved here the day after I graduated, and I've been here ever since. In fact, I've been in the same neighborhood even the whole time. And so in that sense, I think I've been focused on just really liking the music scene here and wanting to play the guitar and do creative stuff. But it's not some kind of, I never really have like larger goals. Like I don't find myself looking ahead more than a year. Like, what am I working on now? What's the next project? It's not like I had something where like, well, now I'm going to do my trio, and then in 10 years, I'm going to work up to an orchestra. You know, like I don't think like that. So I think I try to just stay in the moment as far as music as much as possible and just work on whatever is interesting me in the moment. And I think I like that because it allows you to be more open to stuff that can come up. And I think that is one of the things I like about New York is there's so many different kinds of music happening and so much music, so much good music across all kinds of genres. So you never know like what you're going to check out and it's going to spark some interest. And I've always been conscious of trying not to get boxed into being like, oh, she's just like the crazy free jazz freak out guitar player. You know, like I don't want to be boxed into one thing. So I want to be able to kind of move anywhere. So I think that's something I've tried to do is collaborate with people across like all different genres and people coming from different places. And that's something you can do here. So that's something I've really appreciated.
Yeah, and it's so interesting to me how the pandemic has just kind of lopped that part of New York off. Does that make sense? Do you agree with that? It's just, you know, I remember we were about 2 or 3 weeks into the first quarantine. So this was March, maybe early April. And I was talking to a friend and just kind of freaking out, you know, all these tours are canceled. Everybody knows that story, right? Mm-hmm. And he's like, man, just be in the moment, man. And then, you know, I just talked about that last night. I was like, what about now? Are you in the fucking moment now? A year later, how's that moment going for you, man? And he was cracking up, but it was it was Reed Anderson anyway. And he's like, be in the moment, man. Don't worry about it. You know, then fucking, who knows how long this is all going to last. But at least New York does offer, when it's New York, all those things that you talk about.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with Reed. I have to say, I agree with him. I believe I share a birthday with him too. So maybe that's why. You
agree with him? How?
What's that?
You agree with him how?
I agree that the best thing to do is to not think more than a week ahead during this period. Like I find if I start to think too far ahead, I go insane. But if I just stay focused on like, hey, what am I working on this week? What am I doing right now? Like, what am I going to eat for dinner? It's like a little bit easier to slug through it. I mean, it's still difficult. Like I still have days where it's like enough already. I want to do things. But, you know, I find like trying to stay not thinking like, oh, what's going to be happening in April? What's going to be happening in June? It's best to try to not speculate.
Right. Well, I guess my point was that in this moment, when I was speaking to Reed, maybe that a little bit of that living in the moment is slipping because he's starting to like to kind of think what's going to happen next. Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard not to. It's impossible not to entirely.
I mean, I feel as though anybody who says they haven't had concerns during this pandemic, and this is excluding all the political stuff that's going on, they're fooling themselves, because it's okay. If people are worried or if they're concerned or they're depressed or they're sad, it's better to tell people and talk it out than to say, oh, no,
everybody's depressed.
Right. All right. Well, there you have it. Mary Halvorson speaks for all of us, ladies and gentlemen. And it's been so odd to have this show because obviously I want to do some research and, you know, like I said, I post on social media and I want to talk to you about social media because I know you don't like it. Mm-hmm. And then re-listen to people's records if they have a new one out or an old one, if I want to talk about that. And so I'm like having to think in the future about, you know, or I'm having a politician on, oh shit, I better learn what the job of a press secretary is. Right. Right. And so like, what is living in the moment? It's enjoying listening to Mary's record. It's enjoying learning about politics. It's enjoying listening to J.D. Allen's, you know, songs. I haven't listened to J.D. Allen in a while, like really listen. I mean, you know, put the shit on and just be like, oh yeah, I did this. Oh yeah. oh, wow, JD did that. Oh, wow, Mary did that. Oh, wow. You know, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, you're throwing your energy into something, which is the best thing you can do right now. Instead of sit around and be depressed, you're working on something, creating something, which isn't always easy when there's this huge feeling of lethargy in the world. But I think that's great. There's
a do you know Edel Mead? She Australian musician, I believe, who lives in New York. That's my understanding, but I don't know her personally. But she said, she posted, I just haven't been motivated to practice. I feel so bad, but how's everybody doing with their practicing? And the first comment was, it's going great. I haven't touched my horn since December. I was like, all right, that's like the greatest answer. He's like, yeah, my non-practicing is going great. I haven't touched my horn since December.
See, I think that's totally cool. I feel like you should embrace these ebbs and flows. Like I have months where I feel completely unmotivated. And then if I do feel motivated, I try to like jump on it and really work on some stuff.
Amen. Amen.
And a friend of mine said early on, I remember I was feeling bad because I was getting nothing done. And a friend of mine said, yeah, that's because the pandemic is not an artist residency. And I was like, oh, right. It's a little different.
It's not like you've been sent out to the woods to compose, right?
Exactly.
You've been locked up in your, home. Saying,
and then there's all this sort of, maybe not for everybody, but I feel some kind of pressure of like, you have all this time, like do something.
Right.
You wanted time. Now you have it. Do something.
Right.
But then also just we're in this weird, unprecedented period of time where it's a little bit, it's not so simple just to say, okay, now I got time to do stuff.
I, early on in the pandemic, they asked me to do a Zoom, what do you call it, like a webinar, and be one of the featured speakers, whatever. And there's about 50 people on that, right? All the way from India, all over the world. And I just got this feeling that everybody, this was also in March, I think, or April, that everybody was feeling the way that you were talking, but didn't want to say anything. So I interrupted all the speakers. I said, look, if you're not getting that novel done that you've always wanted to, you're not writing that symphony or the opera or whatever, or building that house because you're depressed, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. Don't beat yourself up. We don't want you getting, and everybody was shaking their head yes and raising their hands and like putting thumbs up. I was like, right. So here we have probably 50 people who are, just like, yeah, thank God. Because you do think, well, I should be getting something done. But that's that whole, my inability to tag Mary on social media because you find it toxic. But at the same time, there are so many beautiful things that have been happening on social media because of our confinement.
Right.
And of course, I've been attacked by trolls, everybody, blah, blah, blah. But there's also some seriously positive aspects, like
for sure.
Leah Paul can see a post about you and say something to me to pass on to you on the show. And I think it's really fun. There are negative aspects, but anyway, I'm talking quite a bit here. Mary.
No, I mean, I think I totally acknowledge that there's positives to it. I think for me, the negatives outweigh the positives. Because conversely to what you said, I could also just give Leah a call on the phone. And I feel like because of social media, people do that less, and the interactions that we have with people are more superficial. It's just like your post, I did this today, and everyone's like, but it just seems to me like what's really and yes, again, there are really great things that happen. My biggest regret about not being on it is I sometimes miss things, right. So I might not hear about a gig that I would have wanted to check out or some cool video somebody posted or something.
Right.
So there is that, but people show me stuff and I still find out. And I feel like also I'm kind of a private person. So I like to have some semblance of having my day-to-day life be more private. And if I want to, I guess I'm old school in that way, but if I want to interact with somebody to have to call them or send an email even email isn't that great, but you know what I mean?
Right.
Just having more. And I also find, it's also just such an addiction. I don't want to be like on a soapbox about it. I probably sound like I am, but I really try to like shut my computer. I try to do things like I check my email twice a day, which already, if you think about it, that's a lot. Like, there's no need for me to be checking it more. And maybe I'll be on it for an hour. Maybe I'll have a ton of stuff to deal with. Or maybe I'll say, oh, there's nothing today. Close the computer, do something else. So I think for me, just I'm much happier when I can get away from the computer a little bit. And again, like, yeah, you miss out on stuff and maybe you interact with people a little bit less. But then I do feel like my interactions and my good friends, it's a little bit more meaningful to me if I can just not have it be through social media.
Yeah, I just literally yesterday did that. I said, all right, I'm going without my, phone, without my laptop. What do they call those things? Devices.
Yeah.
I just spaced out for a minute there. Because I was thinking about what you said. And of course, what happened is my this filmmaker who wants to work with me is trying to reach me, and he only has my email. I don't know why he doesn't give his phone number out. And I missed him like 3 times. I was like, of course, right? So he's like, man, I've been trying to get to you, man. We got to do the Zoom thing at 6. And I was like, I can't do 6, I had another interview, but it's like classic, right? You're like, I'm turning off my devices. And then your neighbor is almost dying and, they got to reach you, or your mom. But to sort of take that a step farther, you're kind of confirming my point, which is if you make yourself available, if everyone knows you're on email every 2 seconds, then that's how they're going to try to reach you. If you were somebody who wasn't on email regularly, people would know that about you, and then they'd give you a call. So I think it almost perpetuates itself. Like if you become someone that's on all the time, people expect responses immediately. And that's the other thing. Like, I don't feel like I've ever missed anything. I guess you're just saying you did, but I don't feel like checking email twice a day I've ever missed something. Right.
That couldn't wait like 12 hours.
Yeah, I didn't. I only missed that moment with a very busy filmmaker who I hadn't talked to in a week and a half. And anyway, we reset up the meeting for another time. So you're right, it was fine. But I was just trying to make a point, like, it's kind of funny. Like, in the old days, you take your phone off the hook, and that's when, something important was happening, right?
No, it's true. I think there's this fear, and that's the other thing. It creates like a fear of missing something. And sometimes maybe you legitimately do miss something, but I don't know. I think I noticed it first. I took a vacation and I was trying to turn my phone off. This was several years ago. And at that point I was on my phone all the time. And I was like, I'm going to turn it on for 5 minutes a day just to make sure there's no emergencies, and then shut it off. And I was so anxious for the first 2 days, just being like, I'm missing something. I'm missing something. Right. Like I was, and you can feel that. That's when I realized like what an addiction it is, of this feeling of nervousness that you haven't checked. And by the end of the week, I was off it. I was like, great, once a day works for me. Sometimes you need to be on more. Sometimes there's a day when you have to be dealing with shit all day. But, to try to have it be compartmentalized, for me, it works better.
It's fascinating because my neighbor, who you maybe or maybe not heard me talk about, she's 96 now. And she can remember not having a phone or a TV. Mm-hmm. And she remembers when they got the phone. And when it would ring, it would scare the shit out of her grandma, right? It would bring, bring. And her grandma didn't know what the hell it was, right? We're talking 1930 something, but she doesn't remember the exact year, maybe 40, whatever. She doesn't remember what year. But she said every time it rang, her grandma would literally scream. And, just having the ability back in, again, I'm sorry, folks, I don't remember what year, whatever year it was, 40s. Being able to pick up the phone and call your friend was this incredible thing.
Yeah.
And then she remembers getting the first TV, right? And then that was then. And then for 8 years, there was really nothing. I mean, there was really no big major inventions in our personal lives. Okay, right. Maybe the phonograph got advanced, but, and then all of a sudden now we got phones, you got tablets, you got iWatches, you got social media. I mean, all of a sudden there's just all this new technology. And that clip I sent you of my software engineer friend, Adam Cooper, he said, you just wait. He goes, what's coming down the pipeline will be like when your grandparents talk about phonographs. Wow. He goes, it'll make everything that we're using now obsolete. And, wow. and as people in our 50s, he goes, we might not even understand it ourselves. And they're not able to have conversations openly about it because of, copyright and patents and proprietary, I hope it's okay. Well, I'm not talking about any company, but he goes, you just wait. And I'm like, what does that look like? He goes, think about yourself and you're 20 and somebody's going to tell you you're going to have something in your hand that you can watch a full length movie or watch TV or whatever. And you'd be like, no way, man. Yeah. Right. He goes, it'll be like that for us.
Oh, wow.
But it's exciting, but maybe nerve wracking for somebody like Mary. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like I'm all against it. I just need it. I need it to be in extreme moderation for my own sanity.
Fair enough. I feel like I feel when I listen to your music, this is something I wanted to bring up. And remember, I edit all these, so if this isn't, something that you want to talk about. On your record, I know Erica, is it Erica? What's her name? The tenor player.
Maria Grant?
Maria, sorry. Yeah. I've only heard of her. I've never met her. She sounds great. Mm-hmm. And you have a mix of sexes and races on your record. Let's just put it that way, so I don't butcher anybody's name here. How do you find sexism in the music business, or just in general in your life? Have you experienced it? And if so, yeah.
Sure, I definitely have. But I think also with music, it really depends on the scene or whatever. Like, I feel like if I was to talk about the general music scene that I'm a part of, there's so many women. I play with so many women. These days, it's not weird for women to outnumber men in bands that I'm in. Which I really like. And I feel like that's who I've chosen to surround myself with, is a scene of people that are more inclusive. And, but I should say, growing up in the 80s and 90s in Boston playing jazz guitar, I never met another woman playing guitar or playing jazz. And in college, I would meet a couple women, but it really was mostly boys or men at a certain point. And I kind of just got used to that. And yes, I had some experiences that were negative mostly when I was a teenager. The big thing was just people not taking me seriously. Like, oh, you play guitar? That's so cute. Oh, you sing too, don't you? Stuff like this.
Right.
And I was so angry. I was like, fuck you, I don't sing, but and again, I actually do like to sing, but it was almost like a reaction. Like, I'll never sing because people are assuming this about me.
You look like Joni Mitchell. You must sing and play guitar.
No,
right?
Really, that's kind of what it was. So it'd be things like that, or people taking one look at me and assuming I couldn't play. And what made that even harder is that I couldn't play because I was learning. I was like 14, 15. I was horrible. But having this thing where it's assumed that you're horrible and then you don't have the confidence to be like, no, actually I can play, So I think things like that were a little bit difficult, and I see why that would stop young women from starting. If one, you feel like it's a boys' club, and two, you feel like people aren't even giving you a chance. But I think the momentum is sort of changing. I think as there's more women who are visibly out there playing different types of music, I think it gives more encouragement, hopefully, for younger people to start. And also, I should say, like, my experience growing up, most of my friends were boys, in music anyway, and they were all great. Everyone was super supportive and cool, and I never really felt excluded. I was just used to it. I was used to being the only girl all the time, and it was kind of okay because I was surrounding myself with people that were positive. Right. And I was lucky to have those experiences. I had most of my mentors were men. They were all great. I think I was lucky in that sense. And I think part of not being taken seriously for me was more motivating than anything else. Like, okay, I want to prove people wrong. So that's a long way of saying I think we've come a long way because, but it's not perfect. Like, I have some female students now, teaching at the New School in New York. I have some female students, but they're still mostly guys. So it has a long way to go, but I do feel like a momentum shift happening for sure.
Yeah, I had, I would agree. And generally speaking, whether the topic is sexism or homophobia or racism in these conversations, I would say generally most feel like we're progressing. I think the black cis male straight guys I've had on the show maybe feel a little less like we're making progress. And I don't like to speak for people, and so everybody can go watch JD Allen speak his truth, and Sharif and or Adam Cooper. And the funny thing, that clip, I was asking Adam, you know, what is it like growing up as a black man in America, or just in, you know, in the world now? And he goes, well, there's a lot of cops in our neighborhood all the time. Like they just kind of roll through here all the time. And his wife makes a cameo. She goes, there's too many cops. Nicole Federici. Do you know her? Violinist?
Not personally, but yeah, I know who she is.
That's his wife. She's like, there's too many cops in this neighborhood and there's no reason. And then all of a sudden that siren goes off. And I was like, all right, there you go. There it is. So it was just like perfect timing. But when I was talking to Danae Greenfield, do you know her, the keyboardist, pianist? Young player. She's great. I mean, I met her through my nephew. But she was saying it's not so much sexism, but it was weird when she was in college studying music and she'd go to a jam session and she was the only woman there. And she goes, I can't say that anybody was being mean to me or saying derogatory things, but it was just like, I'm kind of the only girl in the room. And like you, she goes, I really couldn't quite play yet. So there was that part of it too. So I think that's not something I can relate to as a white male. We all know in America, that's not something I can relate to, even a lot of places in Europe. I'm just like, I just walk in, there's a bunch of other white people in here. Okay, cool. And sometimes a lot of white guys, you know? And so it's been fascinating to hear people's stories of what may be looked at as a struggle, but I like your approach, which is, like when I had brain cancer, I saw it as a challenge. If I can make it through this, right, Mary, if you can make it through this and become as accomplished and as brilliant as you are now, then I can do anything, kind of thing, right? Yeah,
I mean, it's either that or just be like, okay, I quit. So, I mean, I feel like if you really want to do something, yeah, sometimes you do have to struggle through some stuff to make it happen. But I mean, no, it's crazy. I mean, people are dealing with all kinds of prejudice, racism, especially. I mean, you would think we were farther along than we are, but it's just, it's depressing. if you think about it too much, it's really, it's hard.
The press secretary is a first generation immigrant. Okay. And Filipino. And he says, he was telling this story, okay, to me on the show. He'll go to a legislative meeting or whatever, a press corps meeting or something. And they'll ask him, like, why are you here, sir? He goes, oh, I'm the press secretary. They're like, and they have to look it up on the, in their paperwork. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah. And he goes, then if I have one of my interns with me and the intern is either white or just looks normal, they'll actually think they are the press secretary. So I said, wait a minute, Aries, if I went to a legislative meeting with you and I'm just a musician, I don't really know that much about politics, whatever, they probably address me first because I'm a white guy. And he goes, absolutely. And this is in 2020 or 21. And I was just like, what? He goes, yeah. He goes, you would not believe how many times, or he was wearing a mask once and somebody thought he was Chinese, right? Because he has because of his skin color. And he's just like, it's endless. It's like, whoa, that's crazy, right?
Oh yeah. And if that's your reality, you're dealing with that every day. It wears you down.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think Aries is more has your attitude where it's just making him stronger and running for higher and higher offices. And I mean, he's also a gay man, but I think Aries is a tough guy, and he'll get to a place, he talks about Governor Cuomo. He'll just say, well, when I was talking to the governor, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, so that's where you are already. And you're telling me about this overt racism that you're dealing with. So if we can get Aries, higher up, elect him to higher, and then when he could actually make a huge impact on this aspect of our country, I think that would be a beautiful thing. I mean, taking it to the streets is great, right? Having these conversations is great. But I said, Aries, we can talk about politics, but what's it like to be a politician, and what do you want to accomplish? And I don't know, I was excited. I was like, all right, so there's a really cool person here who I would vote for. He's nice, but he's tough, right? And I guess, we're both giving long answers in this conversation.
Good,
but
that's fine.
in the end, it just seems like, we can all talk about this shit till we're blue in the face. But in the end, it's what can we do to actually make change? All right, go to Portland and protest. Sure, if that's what you feel like doing. Make music about it, talk about it. But if we don't have discussions, and if we don't look, some of the stories I've been hearing, especially from Black men on my show, I'm like, what? You got arrested for basically chewing bubble gum on the corner? They're like, yeah. I mean, and I'm not saying that I haven't heard those stories, but I hadn't heard them like this, one-on-one, where I'm in the conversation on camera and they're telling me this story. I'm like, okay, then, well, that exists. It's not like some kind of media, exaggeration.
It's everywhere. Yeah, it's just crazy.
It's crazy, but it also sounds like, well, racism's tough. Sexism, we can face in a different way, and with homophobia.
I was going to ask you, I know you said, you're a white man, so that gives you a different perspective, but have you experienced a lot of discrimination throughout your life for being a gay musician?
Well, according to my ex-boyfriends, I don't come across as gay, which is why they find attractive, right? Like I'm kind of like this straight guy in the gay world. So I have, but it involves a friend, and I'm not really sure I want to talk about it. But yes, I have. I'm about to be on this this thing in Washington D.C. a panel that the journalist John Murph. Do you know him?
I don't think so.
John Murph. He used to work for Jazz Times. And
the name sounds familiar, but
he's probably written about you. A gay Black man, if people want to know the label. And there's a symposium happening online, of course, and I'm one of the speakers. And it's just so weird because censorship bothers me, but I just don't. Yeah, I've experienced overt homophobia, and the other party is not willing to admit that that's what it is. And that's in the gay world, that's a frustrating part. What, you think I'm coming on to you or something? Or, am I talking, on social media? I'm very active on social media. Am I talking in a way that's, attaching you to the LGBTQ community or something? I use the word queer, in my comment. Does that bother, but they won't admit it. In my case, they're just like, oh, no, it's not that. That's not it. Is that, I don't know if that's true. I know it's true when women accuse men of sexual misconduct, they deny it. But I don't know about sexism. I mean, if you really caught somebody red-handed, would they admit to it that they were being sexist? I don't know. I have no idea.
Depends on the person, on the situation.
Right. I just know with homophobia that the times I've experienced it, the other person, when I called them out, because I'm that kind of person, I actually get up in somebody's face and say, dude, what? And they're like, nah, it wasn't that, Andrew. they think it's me flattering myself. Let's put it that way. Don't flatter yourself. And so that's not an aspect of that's tangible, in my opinion. I don't know if it was homophobia. Should I sue this person because they fired me because they think I'm coming on to them? Yeah, I could. My lawyer said I could, but they're like, it's going to be tough to prove and it might ruin your reputation. So, but they said we could do it if you wanted. And I dropped that case, but it's just like, someday off camera, I'll tell you that story.
Yeah, I'd love to hear it.
But I don't feel like I tried telling it on one of the episodes, and I'm gonna have to take it out because I just got so dark. It's so dark, and it just involves so much emotional energy that it's almost not worth going there. I mean, okay, what you sue, you make this money, you sign an NDA or whatever, you can never talk about it again, and then everybody's had to go to court or whatever. It's just
it sucks up so much of your energy and time too. Then you're going to spend, because these things take years. You're going to spend years focusing on it and dwelling on it and thinking about it.
Right. So yes, I've experienced it. Yes, I've even almost taken legal action over it because it involves a very big financial situation. But in the end, I don't know what else to do but do this, is to bring awareness to it, to call my band Gay Disco so that people can talk to me about that. Like, why'd you call it Gay Disco? I'm a gay man. Okay. But why did you call it that? So we could start this conversation. That's why I did that. Plus, I think it's kind of funny. I like the name and it makes me smile.
I remember the band. I saw the band at, could it have been at the Bell House, or did I make that up?
No, that was my first gig after brain cancer, was the Bell House. That was a skirl party, right? Didn't you play?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For some reason, I remember that as well.
That was an amazing night. So.
And I remember the benefit we did for you at the Tea Lounge too, which maybe was the previous year or something.
All right. I feel like I'm talking that, but can I tell a story about that? Because I want to tell a story about that. I'm actually getting a little worked up. So you guys did this. I mean, you and Matt Wilson, and I mean, so many beautiful people were there. Did this benefit while I was still sick with brain cancer. I don't know how to put it. Let's just say I was sick with brain cancer, whatever. And my boyfriend from Iceland said, we should go over. We should walk over and check it out. So I walked in, and Matt Wilson, our drummer friend, was playing a song he had written for me and reading a poem, and he was crying. And I felt like I was at my own funeral. I don't know if that makes sense to people, but I looked at my boyfriend, I was like, I feel like I'm at my own memorial or something.
Yeah, that's intense.
And we turned around and I had to leave. It was so beautiful. Don't get me wrong. And thank you, Mary. Thank you. It's not about that. It was just, I was like, I feel like I was living in a multi-leveled universe, right? I was watching
I totally get it.
So it's like a film.
I mean, you're probably terrified too. So
I was a wreck after that. But at the same time, my Icelandic boyfriend was like, but they were playing music for you. And I was like, yeah, I can't explain it, dude. I can't explain it. I just felt like it was at my own funeral. And I tried to apologize to as many people as I could. I'm sorry I left, but I really
don't think that needs any apology.
Well,
were people upset?
Yeah, one of our mutual friends was upset.
Oh no.
But that's okay. But it's just, we don't need to talk about that part. We were all stressed out in our own way. But yeah, I'll never forget that. Thorsten, my Icelandic boyfriend, was so cute and red hair, and walked 2 miles to go see this benefit concert for me. I mean, all that memory. And then I got in and I was like, it was like my casket was in there and Matt Wilson was crying and singing a poem. I'm not trying to be dark. It really...
No, it was a dark time. I mean, I was terrified and clearly I wasn't even anywhere close to the one dealing with it.
Right, right. Well, one of the things that's been coming up, sorry, I dropped something. One of the things that's been coming up is this pandemic and, people, those of us who have had cancer or the gay community who's had to deal with the threat of, AIDS or HIV for so many years, right? Of dying, that we're like, okay, now you all know what it feels like. Now you all understand, like, any move you make, you could be dead. Like, you could fuck tonight and be dead tomorrow. You don't know. And this past year for all of the world has been like that. You just don't know.
Mm-hmm. I remember seeing, of course, this is where my memory gets weird, but it was some celebrity that was on some late night talk show who'd had a near-death experience. I don't remember what it was. But the host was like, so what insight can you give our audience from having had this near-death experience? And the guy said, enjoy every sandwich. And I thought that was really nice. Like, I think about that a lot, just not even a literal sandwich, but just like really trying to enjoy every day. And I do think this period, and you've had that experience before the pandemic, but, having this experience of trying to be thankful for things and not take things for granted.
Mary, sometimes pretty much at the end of every one of these shows, I like to ask people if they have any words of wisdom for the world. And Mary Halvorson says, enjoy every sandwich. I think I'm going to call this episode Enjoy Every Sandwich. I think Great. That's perfect. And it really, like, what does Mary do during quarantine? She starts making cocktails for her neighbors, and she draws up a menu for them so they get to like have a selection. It's not like you just bring them over something.
And right? I should say they cooked me on Thanksgiving. They made a menu for me, and I got to check off like you do in a hotel when you order like the room service. Check like, I want eggs, I want bacon, I want this. They slipped it under my door, a little menu, and I got to check off all the different Thanksgiving items I wanted, and then they delivered it to my door.
Oh my God.
So those are good neighbors.
That is so brilliant. Bravo, neighbors, man.
Yeah. But that's the thing. Like, this is the type of thing that wouldn't have happened. I'm good friends with them now. I might not have been good friends with them if it weren't for the pandemic. I was on the road all the time. I wouldn't have learned to bartend if it weren't for the pandemic. It's nice. You get these little positives that come out of it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'm realizing and reflecting as you're talking that, at this point with my neighbor, I literally just walk into her house at this point in the pandemic. And before that, no way. Like, I would have to knock. She'd say, who is it? Even though I'm always like, who the fuck else is it going to be, right. By the way? So then I have to wait for, she walks with a cane, which is fine. She's in her 90s. But now I just literally go down, walk right into her house, and we just start talking. Even she's in her pajamas, whatever.
Oh, that's so nice.
But I didn't even think about that. Like, actually at this point, she's like my second mom. Mm-hmm. And, we're not sharing cocktails because that's not her thing. But yeah, that is. Yeah, because normally she would call me and I'm like, Mrs. M, I'm in, Copenhagen or I'm in Germany or something. And she goes, hey, Andrew, I need the snow moved. And I'm like, I'm on tour. You're going to have to call somebody. And by the way, this call is costing me $500. But so, yeah, you're right. I wonder, that might be a new segment is, have you gotten closer to your neighbors? Mm-hmm. I know I had one guest whose neighbor was learning how to play piano during the pandemic, and they lived upstairs, and they wanted to kill him.
Actually, I read somewhere that noise complaints in the city had gone up like 10 times the normal amount.
She said, my neighbor started to take up piano, from the whole, like, getting the piano moved in the house during quarantine or whatever, and pounding, and then she was hitting the pedals. She thought she was dancing. I said, it's probably the pedals. She goes, like, all day, every day. And I was like, oh my God, even as a musician, I think that would drive me bonkers.
It's hard. I mean, it's really hard because everybody is home and everybody's working from home. Like, we have these neighbors, maybe 3 doors down, that have 2 tween children, and they bought this enormous trampoline. And every afternoon, well, not now because it's cold, but when it's not cold, these kids are screaming on the trampoline. And it's like they're in the room with me. It's so loud.
Wow.
You know, but it's like, what are they supposed to do? Probably the parents are both working and the kids are going crazy and, you know, but it's really annoying.
Right. Hey, I love your kids. Trampoline's cool, but you're kind of driving me nuts over here.
That's the thing. We're all like, everyone's so on edge, you know, and everybody's home. It's really weird.
Oh my God. That is so funny. Because our neighbor kids, they got them a basketball hoop. So they started playing basketball during quarantine. And at first I would look out the window. I was like, isn't that fun? And, oh, that kid needs a little coaching. I should go out there and coach them. Well, it's true. He did need a little help with his shot. And
you're a good shot?
I'm a good coach. And I'm like Johnny Knight, right? You know that guy? Think Whiplash, that teacher.
Oh, okay. Yep.
I'm a very good coach. But then after about 3 weeks, a month, I want to go like, all right, time for you kids to go inside. The basketball thing is getting a little noisy over here. You know, it's like boom. I know, but I never did it. I never complained. I made a post on social media and did my complaining there. But I was like, come on, Andrew, they're just playing basketball, right?
Yeah.
But they're just on the trampoline. But there's just something about this whole prisons thing that we've all been in where, you know, we're just all kind of like losing our minds.
We're on edge. Everybody's on edge.
Right. Well, you don't seem like it to me. You say,
that's good.
You're like, we're all on edge. I'm like, you don't really seem like you're on edge, but okay, I'll take your word for it. You actually seem like you're great. Your energy is amazing. And that blue, the royal blue and just everything. You're just seriously. And when I tell people they're beautiful, I'm talking about the auric field and their energy and everything like that. I mean, physically, you have
thank you.
Wonderful features, but it's just, I see this glow around you. That's just amazing. And it's growing as I'm talking about it. See, positivity works.
I think so. I totally
agree. Talk nice about people, they start to feel nice. And then they're going to getting all like, feel like I'm making a speech here and getting all emotional. But I really can see the change in your energy as I'm saying what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. And it's just that feeling that we get now when we watch Biden, even if we don't like his politics, it's just like, oh, thank God, I can finally not think negatively about somebody, you know? And that being said, I want to say one thing about your record. Okay. And this was planned that at the end, I just want to drop this in. Maria Grande, you sound amazing. It's the first solo she takes on the record. Mm-hmm. I do not remember the name of the song. I'm sorry. And I didn't write it down, Mary. Don't hate me.
No, I know. I'm just thinking to myself. So yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And she just sounds so good. And not that she ever sounds bad, but you know how those moments happen. You're like, okay, this was a really good moment. Right?
Yeah, no, she's amazing. She's such a special musician. And she sings on the record too.
Right. That I could not decipher from, you know, you had two singers on there besides Robert.
Three singers. Yeah, Robert. And then Amurtha Kadambi is the main singer. And Maria did almost more like background vocal type stuff. And then on one of the songs, she was the main singer. But she has almost this high, ethereal, wispy kind of voice. And Amurtha has like a low, really powerful voice. So it was kind of a nice compliment. This is Mary Halvorson and Andrew D'Angelo not talking about Mary's new record. All right. Anyway, you got to delete that section. That's your rule, man. I was just talking to somebody, Jacob Garchek. Oh, yeah. About, whose new record is fucking unbelievable. It's ridiculous. I mean, it's one of my favorite records I've heard this year.
No, I was telling somebody who was talking about my big band record. I said, never mind my record. You got to hear Jacob Garchek's new record, which is not a big band record, but it's a large ensemble. Mm-hmm. And he goes, is it that good? I said, it is that good. Fucking good. And so about an hour later, I get a text and my friend's like, holy shit, this record's unbelievable. I was like, right? But Jacob's whole thing is that you're never going to know who that third cello player is, or that, second violin player is, or the fifth percussionist. And so maybe I didn't, recognize Maria singing because she has a textural part that I didn't notice. Right. So I'm excited, I'll go back and have a listen, because I saw that she was listed as vocals, but I was like, I don't really hear a difference in the lead vocal, right?
Right.
Until Robert comes in, obviously, because male, female. But so I'll go back and listen. And also, wait, I'm remembering something, Mary, that I'm really into. And I consider YouTube social media. Whoever set up your page or for that record did a fantastic job.
Whoever set up what?
That page for that record on YouTube.
Oh.
Every personnel, everybody in the band is listed. Every song is listed. I don't know if they list soloists. That I don't remember. I was like, wow.
Because that's another thing I hate about digital music is people listen to music on Spotify or Apple Music. There's no information.
There's no info.
It's so infuriating as a musician that there's not just like a button you can click to be like, it was recorded here and these are the people on it. You have to go separately Google it and then nobody does, so nobody knows who's on a record.
This is so important to me that I've had 3 successful entrepreneurs come to me in recent weeks asking me, how am I doing what I'm doing? Because I'm doing very good with acknowledging everybody, with making sure everybody gets tagged, with making sure that everybody is brought in to the analytics, if people are into the analytics and want to use it to their own benefit, right? If let's say they want to use a part of the interview for their benefit, I make sure that that's available to them it's all just done via tags and all that stuff.
Right.
And so that YouTube page, it's 2666 something. What is it? Do you remember?
Actually, I have no idea. Right.
So let's just say if you ever, I don't know if it was Orchard that set it up or whatever, but whoever did it, I praise you, man or ma'am, whoever did it, because it's done so well. And like, as Mary said, I go to my Spotify, look at my big band, record progress, and there's 15 people on that record and I'm the only one listed. Mm-hmm. That's a drag.
Yeah, it's hard. It's yeah. That's something that drives me nuts too. Like I was thinking, if it really continues that way going forward, I'm just going to have to put on the cover of every record the little JPEG, which is the only thing everybody sees. It's going to have to say all the names.
Yeah, but we've already moved past that, because on TikTok now, you don't even know who the artist is.
I've never been on TikToks.
People are using other people's music, getting 11 million views, and you don't even know who made the music.
Oh, God.
Well,
depressing.
I mean, right. But it's like your sexism comment. Like, we need to embrace this and make a change ourselves. And if we don't like those platforms, I mean, then we should create another one. Mm-hmm. Or we should force people to go to Bandcamp.
Yeah, Bandcamp has been positive.
Do you know that I was talking to one of my students and I said, I'll just give you a download code for the Bandcamp for my record. And he goes, what's Bandcamp? I was
really?
Like, oh my God. Yeah, I'm not making it up.
That's weird, because I feel like a lot of, at least with my students, a lot of them, that's the main.
SoundCloud at that time. Yeah. This was maybe a year and a half ago. SoundCloud was their place. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And now they're like, oh, I can put a track on Bandcamp and maybe make a couple of dollars.
Yeah.
But he literally said, Bandcamp, what's that? I was like, oh no, even that's going to go? Oh no. Anyway, Mary, thank you so much for coming on. Appreciate it. And,
yeah, thanks for having me. It was great to catch up with you and talk.
Yeah. And, everybody, I think, Mary, you have a website, right? I'm pretty sure I went to your website. So we'll put that link for everybody and all of her non-social media, which is you have a Bandcamp page. You have a Bandcamp page. I think that's social media. And also a link to this wonderful YouTube page, but I think people should buy it. I would like people to buy your record.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
It says sold out on your Bandcamp page. Did you sell out?
I don't know.
Right.
It
said sold out when I went there.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe it's through the label, so maybe usually they reprint it in that case. So we'll see. I didn't know. I wasn't aware.
It's just so weird during the pandemic. I don't know about you, but my product sales, CD and vinyl, have gone through the roof. I'm like, what? Yeah. Everybody's buying product now?
Well, because I think partly because there's no gigs and live streaming it's not a gig. I think that the ritual of listening to records and to having music becomes more valuable because it's something that hasn't changed. We can still put on a record at home and have the same experience as we did putting on a record at home before the pandemic. So I do think that's become more valuable, listening and having recorded music.
Yeah, I mean, I half agree with you. I can't get my head around. I got to go to the fucking post office during a pandemic, right? And then they're only letting 3 people in at a time. So there's a line, socially distanced all around the corner. It's taking me an hour at least to even mail like a few pieces of product. That's where I'm stuck, in case you were wondering. But I'm so happy people are buying product.
Yeah.
And I could have a whole show on live streams. I've really tried. I've really, 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 really tried to sit through an hour-long live stream, and I'm just like, yeah, just not the same.
It's not the same.
I'm sorry.
The energy that you get from being in a room, whether you're performing or in the audience, but the energy of a live concert is completely gone when you're looking at a screen. I mean, I've still seen and experienced some very cool live streams. It's just,
same.
You almost have to think of it as a totally different thing. It's not a concert. It's a different experience. And it's like watching a video footage. That's what it is. Just watching video footage of a concert. It can be great if it's done well. And I've seen some that have been done very well, but it's no way. It's not even close to a gig.
Yeah. One of my complaints to the press secretary was, how come Cuomo has not once, and his daily briefings, have you been watching any of those, Mary?
I've watched a couple.
Okay, but you know what they are.
Yeah.
I said he's never once mentioned the Village Vanguard or the Blue Note or, Birdland, right? Not once, these iconic venues in New York. Mm-hmm. And Cuomo's done like 300 briefings. So I told the press secretary, could you just have him just throw us a bone here?
I love it.
And the thing is, he'll do it. My elderly neighbor, when the vaccines rolled out, we couldn't get her a vaccine. So I wrote the press secretary and I said, look, man, here's the reality. And and he got it to Cuomo. Cuomo talked about it on his briefing. He did not mention my name or anything, but he talked about it. I was like, okay, they're getting things done. No, I have such high hopes for Aries, and I will vote for him until the day I die, unless he does something crazy, but I don't think he will. He's a good guy. Anyway, thank you, Mary. Have a great evening. Love you and love your music.
Too.
I love your shirt. I love your energy. All right. Have a good night. Talk to you later. All right.
All right. Talk to you later.
Peace. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Constant Constance. Tune in every week for new conversations. And if you want even more, check out Andrew's Patreon for more exclusive content and additional conversations. Hosted and produced by Andrew D'Angelo. Edited and mixed by Lucy Little. Original music by Andrew D'Angelo and Maximilian Moore D'Angelo. Intro is Henrietta Weeks. Thanks so much. See you next time.
You fucking rocked it. Like she doesn't know she says podcast, right? Like she doesn't even know.